you might call it the world of
music. Almost something technical. Something that also might have to do with the way people received at that moment kind of thing that could go on without anybody's assistance. That was the way I reacted on a certain moment. I was there, I was hearing it, and on a certain moment...
Well, are you speaking now of the length? Of the length?
I'm chaotic. I'm very chaotic. I'm talking about one moment of reaction to some of his pieces. I didn't know any name. I forgot always all the names.
Right.
For piano, very beautiful. You tried to teach me in the 50s in Darmstadt not to make what you call literary associations. I think. No story. Listen to the sound. But I had a tendency to make stories of everything.
Oh, you do?
Yes. I can't help myself. That's character. Don't go wrong. So I made the modern pieces were also very long stories. Maybe you have never listened like that to it, or no? No. Yeah, that sounds consistent.
I could hear those. Well, you know what, more or less what was happening in the music, repetitions.
Yes.
And he was always talking about and loving those rugs. And so I had a sense of repeated patterns, but every now and then something would change. But that I could understand it. What I had difficulty with was it suddenly becoming do, re, mi, fa, so.
Would that have meant literature for you at that moment?
No, it meant
referring to something.
The rudiments of music.
The rudiments of music. Yes. There is. Yeah. And is there?
But
is there anything beyond that? To those rudiments?
Yes,
yes.
Those rugs.
Oh, the rugs.
The the repetitions.
Rug. Is that something you? I'm not familiar with.
Those designed rugs, the Persian rugs.
Yeah, you can shelter in it or lie on it, or
Marty didn't do that.
Or you can put it on the wall.
No, Marty.
Is this a rug?
This is
no
floor cover.
Yeah, that's not. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have mentioned that.
But Marty kept the rugs either on the wall, or he took his shoes off if they were on the floor, so that he treated the floor practically like one of the walls, and he treated the rugs like works of art that he didn't want to. He didn't want them to be stepped on,
to be used.
right?
Uh,
Except as aesthetically.
So, the rug disappeared for you on a certain moment in the experience of listening
Of
to
the
it.
music, and what took its place was one of the rudiments of music.
That was Do Re Mi Fa Sol.
At least that's how I remember it. One of the long pieces that lasted so long.
Not bad. Not bad.
Lately, did you have a similar experience?
No, not. It went to the rudiments of. It's for me. It started all. It was from the start on. It was very well. You can say rudimental, but then for me, I started to weave patterns and rugs, because I have this other, eventually other option of making stories.
The stories.
Yes. So the rug came afterwards.
And it's not a story that you know, it's a story you're hearing from the music.
Yes.
I see.
Exactly. It's
that must be amazing.
A range of associations. It's the way I have seen always the invention of Dada with regard to the music as very important. But somehow clues were missing in the 20s. Even with Varese, you could say, but the idea that any sound can be seen as a musical experience, or an experience with a certain aesthetic value, like a vacuum cleaner or a motor car passing or whatever. Those things that I think that it was a Dada invention. It was done in Zurich. They did it. They made, as far as I can believe the eyewitnesses, they made not very convincing experiments at the time with that. There was Rousseau, but that's another story. So I think that, as in the field of harmony, the harmonic texture from Monteverdi and on, that there's this false idea of perspective in a way. You come in that harmonic field, and now we go to the tonica, or now we go out to adventures of the sub-dominant, those type of things. That is, of course, it's also, or could be present easily with this Dadaistic moment of saying, well, a violin, well, burn it, but we'll have the vacuum cleaner now to give us the same aesthetic feelings. There's a field of association there, of thinking from one thing to another. Very short story was told me as a Chinese joke. It went like this: "Bang! Meow!" It's obviously what has happened. Yes. So, and it belongs to the field of association, that you connect those two sounds in a certain way. And I think that in more or less the same way as in the harmonic field, certain tangents come and go. In that field, associations do the same trick eventually. What about 3 horses and a clock? And at the hour, 2 of the horses go. But around the corner, or seemingly around the corner, the steps become motorcycles. So obviously they became motorcycles or went on motorcycles. Those things could stimulate my fantasy in some regard. So what was the subject? I don't remember.
It was listening to music.
Oh yes, of course. So the only thing, yeah, I now remember. It was about, for you, there was an initial rug and then it became...
Then it became something else.
Yes, so for me it went completely the other way around. Well, the process is described now, I think, more or less. And it's worth doing that, thinking of Morton Feldman's music, I think. Analyze. Speak about it. Yeah. I wanted to ask you in 1958 a question, and I'll ask it now, because I didn't ask it then. I have also questions. I did hear a performance of the Winter Music. It was you and David Tudor playing piano, 2 pianos.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this German public of experts laughing their asses off at that occasion. And I thought, what's there funny?
What's so funny?
What's funny? What's funny? Or are they just having a good time, or is there laughing gas in the room, or what happens? What was your opinion from that moment? Or did you just concentrate on music?
Oh, you
must
mean,
have.
did I notice
words
that they were laughing?
Yeah, there were.
I don't remember noticing that.
Thank you.
I think it was because I had so often such reactions. I mean, so many times things happened, people walked out or stayed and laughed, or coughed or talked.
Yeah.
That I had learned to continue my work.
Yes, of course. It hindered me at the time.
To listen.
To listen.
Of course.
Yes. Then after a while, after 20 minutes or so, people
it.
went or stopped laughing.
Right.
Or things.
I think that happens less. At least it happens less to me.
That doesn't hinder you. That it doesn't, because
You mean that it doesn't happen anymore?
yeah, you were used to it.
I used to take its presence as an indication that I was doing something that was strong.
Yes.
That produced that effect.
Otherwise, when it would have been weak, it wouldn't
Or
have produced anything. I agree.
Or at least I thought that in connection with my making some kind of taking some new step or making some kind of discovery, that I was actually doing that. I thought that indicated that. So that when it stopped, I probably wonder whether...
It stopped being dangerous or something?
Yes, yes.
Yes, but that happens all the time, I think. Mm-hmm. Things are...
And different places have different people, or at least the same piece produces a different experience. It seems it produces a different experience in different places, different people.
Yes. On a certain moment, think whatever you do, would like to do it or not like to do anything. Maybe it's not worth even thinking about. But the danger seems to be disappearing somewhere on a certain point, and then what remains is, of course, just restating the truth of the aesthetic pleasure people have in things. That's why people still listen to things that are made, or look at things that are made 10 centuries, 100 centuries ago. But at the moment that it was made, it was probably people were burnt because they were doing that. They were making things like that, or thrown out of the community, things like that. Maybe we should simply stop talking here.
I think so.
Yes.
Anyway, I have to say that I don't know your music. Would you?
I could play a little piece for you eventually, but
Why did you do it right now?
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah. I'll do that right now. But I'll play a little piece. Good. Yeah.
Oh, dankjewel. 3-minute piece.
Good.
What's the time? You have what? But it's the situation should not be too long. It's not nice. This was improvised.
Well, I was going to ask you, but now I don't have to.
No.
It was improvised, but it was different kinds of things happening, right?
Yes.
And in different places. No?
No.
But at least in different places on the piano.
Yes, but on the piano.
And it required you moving toward the top or moving toward the bottom.
Well, when you see it locally,
Yes.
you could say that.
Yes.
But globally, there is another view.
Yes. I liked it. The thing I liked the most was that I couldn't tell what was going to happen next.
Yes.
So that it was, as you said earlier, it was like a telling of a story, and the listener wanted to know the next part of the story.
When that's true,
Yeah. Right.
There was some
Right.
type of succeeding in that. Yes, good.
What happened at the end?
There was an ascension going on.
Ascension.
An ascension, een stijging.
Going up. Oh, I see, up the keyboard. But you were going down.
So I don't have to say that.
Right. No, I see, that's interesting.
But I don't see any difference between composing and improvising.
You don't.
No. It's, you can,
But that's...
it's luggage.
Yes.
There's musical luggage. And you can
Either write it
dispose,
down.
yes.
Write it down or play it
You
down.
can dispose of it. Some things are better to write down. That's a matter of organization. Of course, 2, 3 people involved, and well, I cannot play the clarinet. Can you?
No.
No. So when you would like to have a clarinet around doing something, you might have to write it down for. But it's
We have a question.
Can I ask a question to you, Misha? You say that you see no difference between composing and improvising. Now, maybe this question, could you have composed the same piece with the same structure, the same notes, the same time, the same structure?
Oh, it could be written down now, of course. It's
So
put in the best type of score you can imagine. A tape recorder just does fine.
So that might be a method of composing.
It's when it is recorded, it's now composed. Yes.
No, I understand.
Could be transcribed.
Easy. There are even electric devices who do that for you nowadays. It's ridiculous and unbelievable.
But to maybe continue my question to another question, isn't it so that when you compose, you have more the possibility to find other notes? No, not more the possibility. When you compose, that you find other notes than when you improvise. For instance, because of like you just mentioned yourself, a composer can't play not every composer can play the clarinet. So we'll write down notes, but maybe we'll write down other notes than the clarinetist would improvise. For instance, too difficult.
That's a speculation within a speculation, eventually. No. It's a matter of logistics, I would say. What shall we do next? Are we going to write something down, or are we going to have a coffee, or are we going to watch TV, play a game of chess, and you have to decide on those matters from moment to moment. So, and I think that there are moments that you have to decide to sit down and write something what otherwise not could be accomplished. Of course there are moments, but I see when you see those fantastic scores nowadays of people, right, for a bass clarinet, I saw something, Haris Parna is a Dutch bass clarinet plays all those modern pieces with thousands of remarks in it, and you have to start that note with a slight PP, go immediately to sforzando that goes back to, and then in the next fourth of the quinto you have to make a idea, shadow of a pause or something. Those pieces are written and were written in the 60s. And I thought the elegant way is to give the receipt simply to the musician and say, well, this is thought along those lines, please
this is how to
do it. That's more elegant. I think elegance is very important in making any object of art, or what you like to call it. The most simple way is always the best, I think. In a way. Well, unless you...
But there again, that has to do with the result, or with the action.
No, results is always secondary to the process of how things are done. Yes.
Yeah. I find the process more interesting, and I don't know well, no, it's true, the process could be elegant.
The process should be elegant.
Yes.
That's eventually it's primal. That doesn't mean, though, but shall we continue till 4 and then stop, simply? Is that an idea?
What time is it now?
2 minutes to go.
2 minutes to 4.
Yes.
No, I think we should just stop.
Thank you.
Can I ask one thing?
One question. I think we stop.
Well, it's not with music. I can ask myself.
I'll come and talk to you in private. Is that okay?
I'm very curious. What would you do if there was an animal under your table, or near your table, that was able to eat, to consume 48 Dutchmen a day? What would you do?
This question
It's
is
a very
going to me.
small animal that consumes, that eats
48 Dutchmen a day.
What would you do when it's getting to you now?
I would ask it if he had already had those 48.
That's the possibility of cigarettes. 48 Dutchmen a day with cigarettes. Cigarette consumes.
Yes. I would put that question immediately, without hesitation. Otherwise, I might have to escape from that animal.
Children always tell me I'll kill them.
Kill the 48 Dutch? That would be too easy for the animal, I think.
They always answer killing them.
Kill him.
Kill.
It wouldn't be a mosquito, I think. That size would be...
Oh, I want to...
Eating 48 Dutch.
One thing that this makes me think of is that recently it came to my notice that 6 radio conversations such as we had were had between me and Martin Feldman over a radio in New York, and I recently got
The copies.
the tape of it.
Yes.
And just as you said with your piece, that it had been recorded by being, and was notated by being recorded.
Yes.
So we were able to transcribe these interviews, and it was a great pleasure for me in that way to hear Marty's voice again and sense his presence.
Yes. Yes. That's fantastic.
And we talked.
Sometimes secondary effects
Yes.
become
Yeah.
very primal
Make it more
moments.
more useful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see that. We can withdraw, I think,
Yes.
if you do that.
Yeah.